Hunger is a moral problem, a problem of political will, a problem of building caring, connected communities. We have enough food, we have enough wealth that we can eliminate hunger if we wanted to eliminate hunger. But unfortunately, we've made policy choices that have resulted in hunger. I'm going to keep fighting to change those policies, but the bigger role is for people to come together and demand the kinds of policy changes that will eliminate hunger.
Hi, welcome back. Welcome back to our podcast, The Zero Hunger Project. I'm your host, Sumen,
I'm Stacia.
and today we're going to continue our conversation from last week. The conversation topic is food sovereignty in action, building community resilience, and from the ground up. And who do we have today to talk about again?
Well, we're continuing our conversation with Mike Schreiner, who's the leader of the Green Party in Ontario, and he's an absolute like juggernaut of a person.
Absolutely. And if you haven't watched the previous episode, please
You need
pause
to go
right
back
here,
and watch
go
it.
back, watch that, and then come back because you do not want to miss even a second of this
Yeah,
conversation.
he's got a lot to say, and he makes a lot of really valid points. And like we said before, this doesn't have anything to do with party affiliation. If you don't happen to believe for whatever reason in the mandate of the Green Party, what he has to say is transcends party.
Exactly. It is nonpartisan. It is about being a human being
Yeah,
who wants to make a
yeah.
difference. So let's welcome Mike back to our studio.
Oh, it's a real pleasure to join you.
One of the things I wanted to say about that is that, the baby boomers were all supposed to have removed themselves from this conversation already. And we promised this generation that's doing all of this cool stuff that if they went to school and got an education, but by the time they were done being educated, they came out, we'd all move up a level, right? So we'd go to the top, they'd move up into the kind of, and unfortunately, because the boomers also have all the money, you can buy longevity with money.
Yeah.
And so they hang around. So now we have the highest educated generation to date who are up to their eyeballs in school debt. And unless they inherit transgenerational wealth, they're never going to be able to afford a house or get themselves out of debt.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Mike, yes, we shouldn't make it harder for the youth, but we should actually make meaningful spaces for the youth as well.
Yeah.
And I think that is the key, not just a checkbox that we have a youth on our board or youth on our committee is not what it's going to
Well,
solve the thing.
I think they've already proven their worth, basically. Like I think
100%.
it's foolish of us at this point to be like, oh no, you're just kids. Think about all the things that have been done in the name of innovation by kids. And I say kids because I'm 53 and I don't mean to sound pejorative, but honestly, like, you know, you have to be kind of scrappy when you don't have anything.
Absolutely.
This is it sounds tautological, but it's true. And younger people will go out and take way more chances than older people will, and that's where the innovation is.
100%. But that brings me to a question, Mike. What are your thoughts on technology being a key component to have zero hunger in Ontario, especially?
I think technology is going to play a role, and I don't want to discount things that are changing in terms of being able to increase productivity on farms, to be able to distribute food more efficiently, reducing food waste, things like that. But I actually think hunger is not a technological problem at all. Hunger is, I think, a moral problem, a problem of political will, a problem of building caring, connected communities, because we have enough food, we have enough wealth that we can eliminate hunger if we wanted to eliminate hunger. But unfortunately, we've made policy choices in Ontario and across Canada that have resulted in hunger. And so we have it within us in a democracy to change those policies. I'm going to keep fighting to change those policies, but I don't think technology is going to be the solution. Obviously, technology plays a role. I mean, the fact that we're having this conversation and we don't have to all be in a studio together, and I can be, in my little tiny office here in Guelph, and I'm assuming you're probably in Toronto,
Yeah.
and so technology is absolutely going to play a role. But I think the bigger role is for people to come together in caring, connected communities and demand the kinds of policy changes that will eliminate hunger.
Let me ask you this question, because there will be people, and I want to know the answer, but there will be lots of people who want to know the answer to this. How do we make this a sexy idea? Like, how do you get people hooked into the idea that this is a good idea? What is it going to take to change the thinking around this?
First of all, I would say there is nothing that brings people together more than food. So if we're going to solve the crisis of hunger, doing it around food is the way to go. Think about how food brings families together and communities together and faith groups together and brings people together across cultures and ethnic backgrounds. I really think people intimately connect with food. And so mobilizing people around addressing hunger. And I keep saying hunger and not food security, because I think sometimes food security, and I used to use that term all the time, is almost a little too abstract.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People are going hungry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Children are going to school without breakfast or lunch. Like, there are people who, subsist on, a fraction of the calories that just the average middle-class person in Ontario consumes in a day. People are going hungry in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Like, that's a failure. We collectively, that's a failure on us. And, I just think if, a society cannot provide food for its population, and we grow enough. So when I say provide food, make sure people can access it in a dignified way, then we failed. And so I don't want to be a part of a society that's failing. I want to be a part of a society that's succeeding, and that means everyone has to have their basic needs met.
This might be a naive question, but how do you change political will?
Well, if I knew the answer to that, there would be more than 2 Greens in the Ontario legislature. So I'm not going to pretend to know the answer to that. But I do think it comes from, I always say it comes from building people-powered movements. And I'll give you an example. The Greenbelt. Everyone said the Greenbelt was going to be open for development. It was a done deal. And people from across this province mobilized. Independent journalists did, amazing investigative exposés. And people just demanded that the government not pave over the Greenbelt. And the premier backtracked and reversed himself. And, we still have an intact Greenbelt. So I don't never underestimate what people can accomplish if they mobilize. And I think seeing people go hungry in our communities is something to mobilize around.
Yeah, and why aren't people mobilizing over that? Why isn't that the most shocking, shameful thing that we have to face?
Yeah, I wish I knew the answer to that one as well. I think some of it is food banks have done a tremendous job, and food security organizations and food banks and food centers have done an amazing job with love and duct tape to be able to mobilize, to get donations of food, to raise money, to be able to feed people. And so, I look at like missions supplying food to people, food security centers providing spaces for people to grow food and maybe make their own food who otherwise would be experiencing hunger. So we as a society have mobilized to put Band-Aids on this situation and to hold it together with love and duct tape. But now we have to mobilize for the policy changes. So we've shown that we care by mobilizing to support organizations that feed hungry people. But now we have to mobilize to demand the policy changes. And as most food bank operators I know will say is, we don't want to exist. Like, food banks started in the 1980s as to address a short-term emergency. And here we are, 40, 50 years later, and food banks have become kind of, just an institutional part of our society. And if you talk to any food bank executive I've ever talked to, said, we don't want to be in business. we want you politicians to put us out of business because we fixed the policy problems.
That's what Suman said when on our first episode, I kind of sort of interviewed him, basically, quote unquote. And I was like, so what's the deal? Like, what's your best case scenario? And he's like, I want to be out of a job.
That's
Exactly.
all our goals. But Mike, I'm going to take you back slightly to 1995. We talked about when we started as a province, as a country, to crap programs or not grow programs, and that is where we are currently. Um, we have audience around the world. People are watching, people are listening to us around the world. There are states, provinces, countries who are in the same mindset where we were in 1995. What is that message that you want to give them uh, to show them the future if they keep on that track?
Yeah, if you live in a country that is looking at austerity budgets and cutting basic social safety net programs like deeply affordable housing and social assistance rates, so people are forced to live in legislated poverty, you're going to be in the kind of situation we're in Ontario right now, where over 81,000 people in our province are experiencing homelessness, where you're having every month food banks are setting a new record for the number of people coming in because they're hungry, including people with full-time jobs. A fraying of our social safety net, which then I think starts creating fissures in our democracy. And I mean, you're seeing that play out in the United States right now. And so if you don't, if people's basic needs are not met, that creates instability and democratic backsliding that negatively affects everyone in society, including the wealthiest. So I think we all have an interest in taking care of each other and making sure that the most vulnerable in our communities have their basic needs met.
I also think it's unpalatable that Ontario, with all of its political hubris, is the cautionary tale in this narrative. Like, I just, it's supposed to be this seat of power where all good decisions are made for love of country.
It
And
used to be.
I think people will find that shocking. And maybe they won't. And maybe those are the people that at first I was like, oh, you're just really sort of bitter and kind of hardened to this whole process. And now I'm just mad. Like, I think that's something to be really embarrassed by, frankly.
Well, I would say channel that into
Handle the
organizing.
rage, Stace. Get a handle on things and go do something useful. I'm going to burn some stuff to the ground first, and then I'll go do
Then you
something
got to do
useful.
that.
Usually in at this time in our interviews, I ask two questions, and I think you've already answered these questions, but I just want to reiterate them. The first question is maybe not the second question, but certainly the first question is best case scenario for you. So we've already covered affordable housing and doubling social
Assistance,
assistance money. Is there any other best
minimum
case
wage.
minimum wage best case scenario for you? What's the pie in the sky? What's the goal?
Well, in addition to that, I think it's strengthening Ontario's economy. This whole trade threat that's being imposed on us from the United States is sending shockwaves through our economy right now. And young people with record high youth unemployment are the first to experience it. But you're going to start seeing it across all demographics. And you think we're in a challenging situation now, it's even going to be more challenging then. And so I think bolstering our economy by diversifying our trading partners, by investing in the highest growth sectors in the global economy, which happen to be things I'm interested in, like the $2.2 trillion that's being invested globally in the green energy transition, most of that in Europe and Asia. Why aren't we attracting those investment dollars to Ontario to create jobs and to address the climate crisis at the same time and create meaningful careers for those young folks who want a good paying, high paying job and a meaningful
And
work
they have the chops for it.
and
Like,
have the chops for it? And so, we seem to be right now in Canada, like doubling down on yesterday's economy rather than actually leading where the rest of the world is going. And so I want to see Ontario, Canada, be a global leader in the new green economy where most of the investment dollars are going. Investing in things like heat pumps that will reduce climate pollution and save people money at the same time. We could be manufacturing them here
Yep.
using Canadian steel, for example. So there's a lot of economic opportunities that exist in the green economy, but instead we seem to be doubling down on fossil fuels, which is only going to make the situation worse because it's going to accelerate the climate crisis.
Well, I didn't think there was such a thing as a climate crisis. I thought everything's fine, right? Isn't that what they're saying? There's no such thing as a climate crisis. We need to
You're not talking about that.
not allow those people to have any kind of a public platform is basically the first thing. My next question to you is there something else that you're working on that you haven't been able to talk about yet? Is there something that, I always ask this, is this the kind of thing that shows up later when you're having dinner and you're like, damn it, I should have brought that up?
I think the final one that we haven't talked about that is connected to food is investing in health, and investing in health in an all-encompassing way. So we're underinvesting in our hospitals and in our primary care doctors and nurse practitioners. But I think we're also underinvesting in things like addressing hunger and housing affordability that are directly connected to health. People call it the social determinants of health. Your health outcomes are determined more by income than almost any other category. And so we haven't brought health into this conversation much. But if we're going to address the huge financial challenges that our healthcare system is facing, and I talk to hospital CEOs all the time who are like, we might have to take out a line of credit to meet payroll for our hospital. Imagine that in Ontario. So one, we have to fund those hospitals properly, but we also have to make sure that we have the supports in place to have a healthy population to take the pressure off of those hospitals.
I feel really now compelled. If you probably already know all of these people, but there are a whole ton of people that we've talked to before today that I think all need to get together. And I think, I honestly, I mean,
That's a
we've
good idea.
right. We've talked to a whole ton of people. It would be really beneficial for all of you to be in the
Zero
same
Hunger Project reunion.
or something or something, some kind of a workshop, because you're all talking about variations on a theme and it's the same theme, by the way. So I don't know if anybody's paying attention, but we've been literally saying the same thing through different channels
Absolutely.
from the jump.
And if you all get together, there is a huge voice.
And these are big bats we're talking about, I mean, Mike's a big bat. Like,
absolutely.
if we kind of connected all of these people together, there's got to be something we could do. There's got to be something we could do, Suman.
I'm sure we can.
Well, you connect us. Can I make one final thing on the health thing is, I talk about the climate crisis, and there's a lot of conversations about the climate crisis, climate emergency.
Yeah.
I think we also have a crisis of caring, and it's a deep crisis. And almost everything we've talked about in today's conversation is about how do we create caring communities, a caring province? How do we care for each other? And I think this world we live in of hyper individualism like social media, I think accelerates that. Like, let's take some time to come together.
Yeah.
100%.
In our community. Bring all the folks that you've talked about have been on your podcast. Let's come together and do great things. But let's also come together with people we disagree with too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do we bridge those divides in our communities? I think we need that right now, because otherwise we're not going to solve any of the other challenges that we're facing if we don't start really caring for each other and caring for this planet that we call home.
Yeah, agreed.
100%.
Agreed.
Mike, thank you so much for your time. This was such a great conversation.
You're a rock star.
You certainly are, and
Yeah.
I knew that because I know him. I have the privilege of knowing him for so many years.
There's no one more like sort of engaged than the newly converted, and I'm here for it.
Now, Mike, you have an ally in Ottawa.
Here I am.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah.
Stacey, happy to work with you anytime.
I have absolutely no political sway at all, but I refuse to be quiet. I refuse to be quiet, and I work in social justice. I have a deeply social justice heart connected to these types of things. I I think what you're saying is really important and it really matters. And at the end of the day, we have to be able to depend on other people's humanity and rely on our own humanity in order for everybody, even to get up an inch. Like if we all just go a little bit, that's great. It's better than some of us going all the way up and everybody else not going anywhere. So if there's anything obviously that
100%.
we can do that I can do to do that, I'm going to do it. Right. I think it's
Amazing.
important.
Well,
Thanks
the
for all your
Thanks,
work,
Mike.
Mike,
Thank you
really,
for
and
Thank
everything you
your
do.
you.
service. It's
Well, and
really,
this podcast is an important part of that conversation. So don't underestimate what you're already
no,
doing.
thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you saying
Appreciate
that.
that.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you very much, and we'll chat soon.
Okay, take care. Bye for
Take
now.
care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Wow. I don't even know where to start at this point.
Well, I just think that, we have a lot of conversations with people and I come out the other side of it and I'm like, "Ugh, I can't. There's nothing." I mean, Mike told us a lot of things that I find deeply shocking, that I think a lot of people will find deeply shocking. And if people don't engage in some of our topics because it's happening in different places around the world, this is happening in your backyard if you're from Ontario. He's talking about your communities and your hometowns, right? So I think that as stressful as some of the things are that he said, because I'm stressed out about it, I also think he brings a lot of hope and he talks a lot about, he seems very positive about stuff and he's moving initiatives forward, which I really like.
Totally. And I loved his 3 points that he kept on hammering
Mhm.
over and over for the
Mhm.
last 2 weeks.
Yep.
That his 3 policy recommendations.
Yeah.
It sounds really simple, but since 1995, we haven't done much on this.
1995, we've been struggling
Just
with
30
these
years, my age. No, I'm just kidding. It's
Right.
not my age. But it's 30 years. We haven't worked on this. So, 3 very simple. I'm going to recap and
Yep.
talk about that. The social assistance rates.
Yeah.
That needs to be doubled in Ontario.
Mhm.
That is a huge challenge. Raising minimum wage to a living wage.
Mhm.
If you have a full time job, you should be able to live in
Somewhere
a decent way.
Yeah.
And third, build deeply affordable housing.
Yeah.
So these are the 3 very clear asks.
Yeah.
And if these 3 happens, we will see a better Ontario, a better Canada, and a better world. There's no question about it.
Mhm.
And I think the other thing which he said very well, and I have struggled to put it in such a clear word, though I always thought about it and I tried to express it, but he expresses very clearly
Yeah.
that why is it that people are not really making or advocating for a systemic change and people are not getting angry by what is happening.
Right.
And the way he said it was very clear. Organizations, multiple like the Food Banks Canada, our organization Feed Scarborough, and many, many, many thousands of more,
Yeah.
has done a pretty decent job in putting band-aid on the problem.
Right.
And rightfully so. We had to. There was, like, it
Well,
wasn't an
again, we
option.
go back to the
Exactly.
conversation,
And
right?
so since we have been putting this band-aid and in a very decent way,
Mhm.
people always do not see the deeper systemic problems.
Mhm.
And I think this is the time that we actually advocate for talking about policy change. We get people angry
Mhm.
to talk about policy change and look beyond the band-aids and the emergency food programs.
Well, because some of the things that he said over these last 2 weeks are deeply outrageous and they're offensive really in terms of the fact that we're supposed to be a country and a society that is predicated on a social welfare
Exactly.
and there doesn't appear to be any social welfare around this. And so the conversations that we had were around political will, changing political will, and community based activism, right? And sort of how you merge those two things. And if people get together enough and display their outrage about these things, we can in fact change political will. So that is
100%.
one way to do that. We're not going to solve anything by standing around and expecting these politicians to have an epiphany and have a change about how they think about things. That's not going to happen.
No.
That's like swallowing poison and expecting another person to die. It's not going to happen. What we are going to do instead is mobilize the people that are willing to be mobilized and use those voices, the voices of the youth, of people who are being affected by this, of people that are, representing those people, and using us, the groundswell, to try and change political will that way.
Absolutely.
And I think he really, I think he has a lot of hope for that. I think it's basically the whole premise of the Green Party in general is to do that kind of work.
Perfect.
And I think that's the way forward. It's not for the people that are doing the things that are blocking progress to suddenly have an epiphany that maybe they should be doing things differently. We can't wait for
No,
that.
we can. And two of my final takeaways from the last 2 weeks
Yeah.
is one, the future.
Right.
The future is the youth.
Yeah.
And not just a checkbox, actually empowering them, not telling them what they should do, but empowering them to come up with solutions.
Yeah.
So that was a huge. And the other thing that we have talked about before is everybody can make a difference.
Yeah.
Being just one at some point and now two, member of provincial parliament in Ontario,
Mhm.
the massive other party member of parliaments, even the small needle that Mike is moving and his team,
Yeah.
it's something that everybody should notice.
Well, and it's making a difference, right?
It
I
is.
mean, it's the squeaky wheel. So if we go
100%.
out there and start squeaking all the wheels, then those are going to be the areas that get attention.
100%.
Yeah.
So this was great. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you, Mike, for coming and having these conversations.
Mhm.
If you haven't really purchased this book, The Zero Hunger Project, please do so. There are amazing stories of real problems and solutions that's happening around the world to talk about food security. Have a look, read it. If you want to find it in the libraries, in many libraries, it's available as well. So thanks for sharing, and hopefully you are subscribed and you're going to see more episodes.
Absolutely.
Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.